My wife asked me at our marriage counselor's office, "What would you do if I told you I'd been unfaithful?" I looked at her, dead calm, and said, "Define unfaithful." That's when she broke. 2 men. 4 years between them. And when I stood up, thanked the counselor, and walked out of that room without a word, she ran after me through the corridor in bare feet because she'd kicked off her heels during the session. She found me in the car park. She also found my solicitor, Mitchell Hargrove, leaning against his BMW with a brown envelope in his hand. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm 38. Born and raised in Christchurch, moved to Wellington for work about 12 years ago. Software architect for a consulting firm. Good money, quiet life, nothing flash. I married Melanie when I was 31. She was 28. We met through mutual friends at a barbecue in Island Bay, one of those summer afternoons where everybody's barefoot on the lawn and the beer's running cold and you end up talking to someone until the sun drops behind the hills. She had this laugh. Proper through her head back kind of laugh. Made you feel like whatever you'd said was the funniest thing in the world. We dated for 2 years, got engaged, got married at a vineyard in Martinborough. 70 guests. Her mum cried. My old man did a speech that went 10 minutes too long. Happy days. For a while. About 5 months before everything blew up, I started noticing things. Small things. Melanie had always been casual with her phone. Leave it on the kitchen bench, never cared if I picked it up to check the weather or order takeaways. Then one week it was face down everywhere. Lock screen changed from her fingerprint to a 6-digit code. She'd take it into the bathroom when she showered. Started putting it in her handbag the second she walked through the door instead of tossing it on the bench like always. Then the schedule shifts. Melanie taught Pilates 3 days a week at a studio in Newtown. Suddenly she was picking up extra evening classes. They're short-staffed, she said. Just helping out. She was coming home at 9, sometimes 10, smelling like she'd already showered. Her gym bag would be in the car, but her hair would be dry. That didn't add up. New clothes. Not heaps, but specific. Matching underwear sets she never wore for me. A perfume I didn't recognize that she kept in her car, not the bathroom. Started shaving her legs every second day instead of whenever she remembered, which had been more her style. I told myself I was being paranoid. Then I told myself I wasn't. My mate Toby had gone through a rough split the year before. I'd been his sounding board through the whole thing. Over a beer one night at the malt house, I told him what I'd noticed. He didn't hesitate. Ring Ray Beckett. Private investigator out in Lower Hutt. Ex-police. He's thorough as hell and he doesn't stuff around. I called Ray the next morning. Met him at a cafe on Courtney Place. Stocky bloke, close-cropped gray hair, sat with his back to the wall like old habit. I told him what I'd seen. He didn't judge, didn't reassure, just took notes and said he'd need 6 to 8 weeks. Most cases, Ray said, in the first fortnight. But you want it tight for court, I need time. He was right. Within 9 days he had photos. Melanie meeting a man named Craig Ellison at a wine bar in Thorndon. 3 times that first week. Lingering goodbye at his car. His hand on her lower back. The next week, photos of them entering a hotel on the terrace at 2 in the afternoon. Staying for 3 hours. Photos timestamped, GPS tagged, everything. But Ray found something else. Something older. He pulled her phone records, I still had access to our family account, and found a pattern going back nearly 4 years. A different number. Different contact name, saved in her phone as Studio, Supplies. Hundreds of calls and messages. Ray traced it to a man named Dominic Ashworth. Personal trainer. Used to work at the same gym chain as Melanie before he moved to Auckland about 18 months back. 4 years. 4 years of phone calls, hotel bookings paid in cash, texts deleted daily. I sat in my car outside the cafe after Ray showed me the full report and I just stared at the steering wheel. For years meant almost our entire marriage. Dominic overlapped with Craig by about 5 months. She hadn't even waited for one to finish before starting the next. I didn't confront her. Didn't raise my voice. Didn't break anything. I went home, kissed her on the forehead, and said dinner smelled good. Then I called Mitchell Hargrove. Mitchell's a family law specialist in the CBD. Mid-50s, speaks slowly, thinks fast. We met in his office overlooking Lambton Quay, and I laid out everything. The PI report, the photos, the phone records. He flipped through it all without expression, then closed the folder. You've got a strong position. The house. Mine. Bought it 3 years before the marriage. My name only. She's never been on the title, never paid rates, never contributed to the mortgage. Good. Here's what I recommend. Don't confront her. Don't change your behavior. If she suggests counseling, agree immediately. Why? Because anything she admits in a therapeutic setting can be used in proceedings. And her suggesting it shows consciousness of guilt. She knows she's done wrong and she's looking for a controlled space to confess. 2 weeks later, Melanie suggested marriage counseling. I think we need to reconnect, she said, sitting on the edge of our bed, fiddling with her wedding ring. We've been distant. I want us to work on things. I looked at her and felt absolutely nothing. Yeah, I said. I think that's a great idea. She actually teared up. Really? You're not going to fight me on it? If it helps us, I'm all in. She hugged me, pressed her face into my neck and whispered, "Thank you." I was so scared you'd say no. I hugged her back and thought about Dominic Ashworth. 4 years. We started seeing Dr. Evelyn Croft, a counselor with a practice in Kelburn. Calm woman, soft-spoken, had this habit of tilting her head when she listened, like a curious bird. The first 3 sessions were textbook. Communication styles, attachment patterns, love languages. Melanie performed brilliantly. Thoughtful, emotional, committed to growth. I played my part too. Engaged husband wanting to understand where it went wrong. Session 4. A Thursday afternoon. Autumn. Rain on the windows. Melanie had been nervous all week. Couldn't sit still. Checked her phone constantly, then put it away, then checked it again. She'd barely eaten lunch. In the car on the way there, she gripped the steering wheel so hard her knuckles went white. She was building up to something. We settled into Dr. Croft's room. 2 armchairs, a couch, a box of tissues on the side table, a framed print of Milford Sound on the wall. Melanie sat across from me and kept looking at her hands. Halfway through, during a silence Dr. Croft was letting breathe, Melanie spoke. I need to ask you something. Dr. Croft leaned forward slightly. Melanie turned to face me. What would you do if I told you I'd been unfaithful? I kept my voice flat. Define unfaithful. Her face crumpled. She started crying immediately. It's not hypothetical. I waited. His name is Craig. He works in marketing. We've been seeing each other for about 8 months. I didn't plan it. It just happened. Dr. Croft asked gentle questions. Created space. Professional. I sat there. Then I asked, very quietly, is there anything else? Melanie nodded, crying harder. There was someone before Craig. Dominic. It was longer. Almost 4 years. It ended when he moved to Auckland. 4 years. She said it like she was admitting to a parking ticket. Dr. Croft was talking about processing, about working through betrayal, about what comes next. I wasn't listening. I stood up. Both of them startled. Thank you for your time, Dr. Croft, I said. This has been very informative. Wait, we should discuss, no. I think we're done. I picked up my jacket from the arm of the couch. Melanie jumped up. What are you doing? We came here to fix this. To work through it. You came here to confess in a safe space and control my reaction. I came here to confirm what I already knew. Her face turned white. What do you mean, you already knew? I hired a private investigator 3 months ago. I know about Craig. The hotel on the terrace. I know about Dominic. The 4 years of phone calls saved under studio supplies. Today just made it official and on the record. I walked out. She came after me. Bare feet slapping on the corridor tiles because she'd slipped her heels off during the session and didn't stop to put them back on. Running after me in stockinged feet. You knew? This whole time? You've been pretending? I needed you to say it yourself. On the record. I hit the lift button. She grabbed my arm. Divorce? No. We can work through this. That's why we're here. Our vows, you're quoting vows at me? After 4 years of breaking them? The lift arrived. I stepped in. She tried to follow. I put my hand on the door. Don't. The door's closed. I took the lift down to the car park. Level 2. My Subaru was near the stairwell. And there, 5 spots away, was Mitchell Hargrove. Navy suit. Briefcase. Standing next to his car. Holding a brown A4 envelope. The stairwell door burst open behind me. Melanie, still barefoot, breathing hard from running down 2 flights. And she saw him. Who the hell is that? Mitchell walked over. Professional smile. Mrs. Langford. Mitchell Hargrove, family solicitor. I represent your husband. He held out the envelope. You've been served. She stared at it like it might bite her. What is this? Divorce papers. Filed this morning. You're being formally notified. Her head snapped toward me. This morning? But we were in counseling. You couldn't have, I've known for 3 months, Melanie. Craig. Dominic. The hotels. All of it. Today's confession just made the legal pathway cleaner. She looked between me and Mitchell, cycling through shock, fury, panic. You set me up. You manipulated me into. I documented the truth. There's a difference. Mitchell cleared his throat. Mrs. Langford, I'd strongly advise you to retain independent legal counsel as soon as possible. All relevant details are in the documentation. The preliminary hearing is scheduled for next month. She snatched the envelope. This is entrapment. It's called evidence gathering, Mitchell said mildly. Everything was obtained lawfully. The private investigator operated within all legal boundaries, and statements made in counseling sessions are admissible. I got in my car. Mitchell gave her a polite nod and got in his. I started the engine. In the rearview mirror, Melanie stood barefoot on the concrete, mascara tracking down her cheeks, holding the envelope with both hands. I drove out. Didn't look back. The text messages started before I'd even reached the motorway. I pulled over and read the first 3. How could you do this? We took vows. I was going to end things with Craig anyway. You didn't even give me a chance. Your coldness drove me to this. If you'd been more present, none of this would have happened. My personal favorite came at 11 that night. You spied on me. That's a violation of my privacy. My lawyer will hear about this. I forwarded everything to Mitchell. He replied at 7 the next morning, perfect. Keep documenting. Don't respond to any of it. Silence is our greatest asset right now. I blocked her number 2 days later. By then I had 47 unread messages and 19 missed calls. Then her mother rang. Gloria. How dare you humiliate my daughter like that? Serving her divorce papers in a car park like she's some kind of criminal. Hi, Gloria. Your daughter cheated on me with 2 different men over a combined 4 years. Thought you should hear the full version. Pause. She told me about her mistake with Craig. Couples go through difficult. Did she mention Dominic? Longer pause. Who? Ask Melanie about Dominic Ashworth. For years, Gloria. Almost our entire marriage. Silence. She didn't tell you that part, did she? Gloria hung up. Called back twice. I didn't answer. 3 days after that, Melanie turned up at the house. My house. I bought it in 2015, 3 years before we married. My name only on the title. She'd never contributed to the mortgage, rates, or insurance. Not once in 7 years. I'd changed the locks the morning after serving her, and Mitchell confirmed that was within my rights since she wasn't on the title and separation proceedings were active. She must have tried her key first because by the time I checked the security camera, she was already banging on the front door. I used the intercom. You need to leave, Melanie. Let me in. This is my home. Your name's not on the title. Mitchell sent you a list of supervised times to collect your belongings. Pick one. You can't keep me out of my own house. I can and I am. You're welcome to ring the police and show them the divorce papers citing your adultery. See how that goes. She stood on the porch for 15 minutes. Crying, then yelling, then crying again. My neighbor, old Kevin from next door, eventually came out and asked if she needed help. I'm fine, she snapped, then drove off. The next day, her sister called. Natalie. I'd always got on well with Natalie. She was reasonable. Look, she said, I'm not defending what she did. But the way you handled it was brutal. For years, Natalie. 2 different men. She lied to my face every single day. She loves you. She's completely falling apart. She loved me so much she spent 4 years in someone else's bed. Quiet on her end. I'm sorry this happened, Natalie finally said. She's my sister, so I have to be there for her. But I understand why you did what you did. Thanks. That actually means something. We hung up on decent terms. Mitchell called a few days later. She's hired a solicitor. Bloke named Anton Driscoll. Does mostly straightforward family court work. Nothing to worry about. What's he asking for? Half the house equity. 3 years of spousal maintenance at $3,000 a month. And she wants you to cover her legal costs. I laughed. Actually laughed. Based on what? Her contributions to the marriage and the lifestyle she became accustomed to. The house I bought and paid for entirely by myself for 7 years while she worked part-time and apparently had plenty of energy for 2 affairs. That's essentially what I told Driscoll. He'll push anyway. She's also claiming emotional neglect as a contributing factor. Emotional neglect. I know. We'll need documentation of everything. Mortgage statements, rates, your financial contributions. The counseling sessions help us here, because you agreed to therapy while she was confessing to 4 years of infidelity. 2 weeks later, I filed for a restraining order. Mitchell had been documenting everything, the texts before I blocked her, the showing up at the house, the twice she turned up at my gym, the time she tried to get into my office building and was stopped by reception. The family court granted a protection order within a week. The preliminary hearing came a month after the car park. Melanie arrived looking like she was headed to church. Navy dress, hair pinned back, pearl earrings. Her solicitor, Driscoll, kept calling her Mrs. Langford in this soft, sympathetic voice like she was the wronged party. Mitchell laid out our position. Clean separation. She gets her personal belongings and her car. I keep the house, which I owned before the marriage. No spousal maintenance given 4 years of documented infidelity. Each party covers their own legal costs. Driscoll's counter was extraordinary. House sold and proceeds split 50-50. 3 years of maintenance at $3,000 monthly. I cover all legal costs. Plus she wanted half the furniture. The judge was a woman named Rhonda Kemp. Late 40s. Sharp eyes, no patience for nonsense. She read through everything. The counseling notes. The PI reports. 7 years of bank statements showing I'd paid every household expense single-handedly. Mr. Driscoll, Judge Kemp said, your client has admitted to sustained infidelity spanning 4 years with 2 separate partners. She's claiming entitlement to a property she has never financially contributed to. On what legal basis? Driscoll launched into a speech about partnership, about non-financial contributions, about emotional labor and domestic management. Judge Kemp cut him off. Did your client pay rent? Not in the traditional sense, but did she contribute to the mortgage? The marriage was a partnership where? That's a no. Rates? Insurance? Any documented financial contribution to the property? Driscoll shuffled his papers. No, Your Honor. Then there is no property claim. She turned to the maintenance request. Your client wants $3,000 a month. What's her current income? She teaches Pilates part-time. Approximately $1,500 a month depending on class numbers. And she was earning that same amount during the marriage? Yes, Your Honor. So she maintained her income while living rent-free and conducting 2 affairs over 4 years. Judge Kemp looked directly at Melanie. Why do you believe you're entitled to spousal maintenance? Melanie had been crying quietly. She looked up. I've become accustomed to a certain standard a standard funded entirely by the husband you were being unfaithful to. I contributed in other ways. I kept the house running. I cooked, I cleaned. How often did you cook? Melanie hesitated. A few times a week. Judge Kemp looked at me. Mr. Langford? Most nights, Your Honor. I work from home, so I handled dinner. We also had a cleaner come fortnightly, which I paid for. The judge turned back to Melanie. So you worked part-time, didn't cook most meals, and had professional cleaning arranged and paid for by your husband. What precisely were these other contributions? Melanie just cried. Driscoll tried to jump in. Your Honor, my client felt emotionally abandoned. Then she should have filed for separation instead of conducting 2 concurrent affairs while living off her husband's earnings. Judge Kemp delivered her ruling. The house remains my sole property. Melanie gets her personal belongings and her vehicle. No spousal maintenance. The sustained infidelity negates any claim. Each party covers their own legal fees. Final hearing in 6 weeks. Driscoll tried to object. Judge Kemp shut him down. Mr. Driscoll, your client can accept these terms, or we proceed to a full hearing where I will summon both Craig Ellison and Dominic Ashworth to give sworn testimony about the affairs. Your choice. Melanie looked like she'd been hit by a bus. We left the courtroom. She tried to corner me in the corridor. This isn't fair. 7 years of marriage and I get nothing? You got 7 years of free housing. Plus whatever Craig and Dominic spent on you. Those relationships are over. Craig ended it the day you served the papers. Said he didn't want the hassle. Shocking. A man who sleeps with married women turns out to be unreliable. You're enjoying this. I'm not enjoying anything. I'm ending a marriage you destroyed. Gloria appeared behind her, red-faced. This judge is biased. We're appealing. Mitchell materialized beside me. Appeal on what grounds? Your daughter admitted to multiple affairs. The judge applied the law. Natalie arrived then, gently pulling Gloria's arm. Mom, let's go. But Gloria wasn't finished. She got in my face. You've destroyed her. Over mistakes. She gave Dominic 4 years, Gloria. Craig got 8 months. I got whatever was left over. Mitchell had to look away. Building security eventually moved them along. In the car park, Mitchell said, she's not going to accept the ruling. Probably not. In 6 weeks she'll get the same result, just with higher legal bills. Why drag it out? Pride. Anger. Or her mother convincing her she has a case. He was right. Melanie didn't accept. But the protection order kept her physically away. Instead, she moved to social media. Long emotional posts about toxic relationships and narcissistic partners and surviving emotional abuse. Never named me directly, but tagged mutual friends and talked about 7 years wasted on a man incapable of forgiveness. My phone lit up. Old friends asking what happened. Acquaintances wanting both sides. I didn't engage. Mitchell said don't respond publicly. So I didn't. Then my brother Miles rang. Mate, Melanie's at Mom and Dad's place. What? Showed up in tears. Telling Mom you won't listen, asking her to talk sense into you. What did Mom say? Told her she was sorry but it wasn't her place to get involved. Dad was less diplomatic. Told her to leave before he rang the police. Then the work situation. I started getting odd looks in meetings. Found out later Melanie had contacted our HR department with a vague complaint about me creating a hostile environment by discussing our divorce with colleagues. I hadn't mentioned it to a single person at work. HR investigated, found nothing, dismissed it. Mitchell sent Driscoll a formal letter documenting every incident of harassment. The social media campaign, the approach to my parents, the fraudulent HR complaint. Added it all to the protection order file. Driscoll responded with his own letter claiming I was the one being unreasonable by refusing all communication and alienating her support network. The final hearing arrived 6 weeks later. Melanie caved the night before. Driscoll rang Mitchell at 7:30 to say she'd accept the terms. She showed up to court looking exhausted. Signed everything without making eye contact. Judge Kemp made it official in about 12 minutes. Marriage dissolved. Effective immediately. Walking out, Melanie stopped me one last time. Her voice was flat, scraped raw. I hope you're satisfied. I wanted a faithful partner. Didn't get one. I made mistakes. You made choices. For 4 years. 2 different men. That's not mistakes. That's who you chose to be. She flinched. Craig meant nothing. Dominic meant nothing. It was just, I don't know. Escape. Attention. Something. But you were the one I actually loved. Funny way of showing it. Her eyes filled. I know I destroyed everything. I know that. But you didn't have to destroy me too. I protected myself. There's a difference. You made sure everyone knew. Made sure I lost everything. I documented the truth. You did the rest yourself. Natalie appeared, touching Melanie's elbow. Come on. Let's go. Melanie shrugged her off. You used to be kind. What happened to you? You lied to me for 4 years while sleeping with other men. That's what happened to me. She opened her mouth. Closed it. Nothing left. They walked away. Gloria gave me one final glare but didn't speak. Even she'd run out of steam. Mitchell and I went for lunch at a place on Cuba Street. He ordered a whiskey even though it was barely noon. How do you feel? He asked. Empty. That's normal. Even when you come out ahead, divorce takes something from you. She's telling everyone I ruined her life. People who know the truth will understand. The rest aren't worth worrying about. Think she'll ever own it? Mitchell shrugged. Some people can't. Easier to make you the villain than to sit with what they actually did. We finished lunch. Shook hands. He told me to ring if I needed anything, but hopefully this was the end of it. I drove home to my house, legally, completely, entirely mine, and sat in the driveway with the engine off. 7 years of marriage. 4 years of lies running underneath it. 3 months of evidence. 6 weeks of legal proceedings. And now it was just over. Melanie moved back in with Gloria and her stepdad in Pereira. Heard through Natalie she was picking up extra Pilates classes to cover rent. Craig was apparently already seeing someone new. Saw it on social media before I unfollowed everyone connected to the whole mess. No idea what happened to Dominic up in Auckland. Don't care. The house is different now. Quiet, but a clean kind of quiet. No more wondering. No more checking timelines against excuses. No more pretending. I'm 38. Divorced. Starting over. Most of my mates are married with kids. I'm the divorced bloke at barbecues now, the one people get a bit awkward around like failed marriages might be catching. But I'm free. Free from lies, free from someone who looked me in the eye every morning while betraying everything we built. She asked in that counselor's office if I'd forgive her for cheating. The answer was always no. I just needed her to say it first. Needed it documented. Needed the truth on the record before the record closed. Here's what I've learned, and I wish someone had told me this years ago. Trust your gut. When something feels wrong, it usually is. Don't let anyone tell you that suspicion makes you paranoid, sometimes it makes you right. Document everything. Keep your emotions off your face until you're ready to act. And understand this, forgiveness is a choice, not an obligation. Nobody is entitled to it. Not your partner, not your family, not society. You don't owe your forgiveness to someone who spent years choosing to deceive you. Protecting yourself is not cruelty. Walking away is not weakness. And starting over at any age, whether you're 28 or 38 or 58, is not failure. The divorce is final. The house is mine. And maybe I'm not fine yet. But I'm free. And right now, that's enough. Sometimes I still sit in the driveway after work with the engine off, just listening to the quiet. Not the anxious quiet from before, where I'd be wondering whose name was lighting up her phone inside. This is a different kind. Honest. Still. Like the house finally exhaled. I think about Melanie sometimes. Not with anger anymore, not really. More like studying a map of somewhere I used to live, tracing the roads and wondering how I missed the detours she was taking for 4 years. The truth is, everything that happened to her came from her own choices. Not one choice, not a moment of weakness you could chalk up to a bad night. Hundreds of choices, thousands of small daily lies stacked on top of each other like bricks until the wall was so high neither of us could see over it. Craig. Dominic. The deleted messages, the fake class schedules, the perfume she kept in her car. Every single one of those was a fork in the road where she could have stopped, could have told me, could have walked away from the affair or walked away from the marriage with some dignity. She chose neither. And when the weight of all those choices finally came down, it came down hard. That's not cruelty. That's just how it works. What you put out there comes back to you, and it doesn't check whether you're ready for it first. But I also think about what got me through, and it wasn't just anger or stubbornness. It was doing the right thing even when it would have been easier to blow up. When I found out about Dominic, about those 4 years running underneath our entire marriage, every part of me wanted to smash something, wanted to scream at her in the kitchen and watch her face change. I didn't. Not because I'm some kind of saint, but because I understood that keeping my integrity intact was the one thing she couldn't take from me. She took my trust, my time, years of my life I won't get back. But she couldn't take my character unless I handed it over. So I didn't shout. Didn't cheat back. Didn't play dirty. I stayed honest through the ugliest chapter of my life, and I can look at myself in the mirror without flinching. That matters more than people realize until they're in the middle of it. Then there's the thinking side of it. Toby told me to call Ray. Ray told me to be patient. Mitchell told me not to confront her, to let the counseling sessions build the case. At every step, I had to put my emotions in a box and use my head instead. That's not natural. When you're hurt, your brain wants to react, wants the relief of confrontation. But relief and results aren't the same thing. I planned. I waited. I gathered what I needed and I moved when the timing was right, not when my feelings demanded it. If I'd confronted Melanie the night I first saw Ray's photos, I'd have given her time to destroy evidence, coach her story, maybe even turn it around on me. Thinking clearly when everything inside you is on fire, that's a skill worth building. It saved me. And the last part, the part nobody warns you about, is just getting through it. The weeks after the car park, after the hearing, after the final sign-off in court. Waking up alone in a house that used to have 2 people in it. Cooking for 1. Mates not knowing what to say at barbecues. Glorious voicemails. The social media posts calling me a narcissist. You just have to keep moving. Not because it feels good, but because standing still means letting everything that happened define you permanently. Melanie quit. She quit on our marriage years before I knew about it. I refused to quit on myself. That's the difference. Grit isn't about being tough or cold. It's about getting up the morning after your whole life changes and making breakfast anyway. Doing the dishes. Going to work. Breathing through it until breathing stops feeling like effort. Integrity kept me clean. Clear thinking kept me ahead. And sheer bloody-minded persistence got me to the other side. I don't know if Melanie will ever understand that. But I hope someone listening does, before they need to learn it the hard way like I did.